You're going to go over the review for 9.1, 9.2, and 9.3. Not all these questions are going to be in your quiz. I kind of showed you yesterday the 6 questions that you really have to focus on. So I'll also put that in the recording so you have it, just in case you don't want to study everything that you don't really need to know. Concept-wise, it's good to know, and you will see all of these concepts on your test, but I'm probably not going to really focus on those because I don't want you guys to know more than you need to. So questions 1, 2, and 3, or 1, 3, and 5 are going to be on your quiz. Okay, something like that, something similar to that is going to be on your quiz, so I'm going to go over those. All right, the question says, a lot of you guys do not like to read the directions, and then you're missing information. Find the value of x and tell whether the side lengths form a Pythagorean triple. You do not need to tell me if the side lengths form a Pythagorean triple. You just need to be able to solve for x. And how you would do this is you would have to plug it into the formula, which is, let me make this a little thicker, you have a squared plus b squared equals c squared, and c is always what? C is always the hypotenuse, which is, what's the hypotenuse? Good. Okay, the hypotenuse is not always x.
Well,
In that, yes, it is x, but your hypotenuse is always what?
the biggest side.
It's always the longest side, okay? If you don't remember what the longest side is, it's always the side opposite of your 90-degree angle, okay? This is your hypotenuse. So if you didn't know what your hypotenuse is, you have to remember what your hypotenuse is. That's the most important part of the Pythagorean theorem, is your hypotenuse. Your a and your b doesn't matter what it is, but your c must be your hypotenuse. Your a and your b could be your other sides of the triangle. So looking at this one, I'm going to plug in what I have. I have my a squared, which I'm just going to plug it in. Here's my a. Here's my b. Please label. Your a is 4 squared plus 3 squared equals x squared. If you don't know these answers off the top of your head, you can use your calculator. So if you look at the calculator that you guys should have, you click the on button. It's at the bottom left corner. And then if you look 1, 2, 3, 3 buttons above the on button, there's a squared button. So if you plug in 4 squared, it should give you the answer. Please don't try.
Where is it?
So you see the on button. If you have something on your calculator, click the clear. But 1, 2, 3 buttons above the on button, there's a squared. So you could click 4 and then push that squared button and it'll square it, and then you click enter. Okay, please do not try and plug everything into your calculator because you will make some sort of mistakes. Make it as simple as you can. So when you plug it into the calculator, you're going to get 16 plus, we should know this one, 3 times 3. 9 equals x squared. If you don't want to add it in your head, you could plug it in the calculator, but it's going to give you 25 equals x squared. And how do you get rid of a squared? Good. Is this a perfect root? If you are unsure, okay, there is only one question on your quiz that you have to change to a decimal. Everything else is either a whole number or simplify the radical. If you are unsure if your number is a perfect root, just plug it into the calculator. If you get a decimal, try and simplify the root, but we should know 25 is a perfect root because 5 times 5 equals 25. And x equals 5, and that's it. So going to number 5, I'm just going to do it above it. I have, this is my c. I know for a fact it's a c because it's my hypotenuse. Here's my a, here's my b. Plugging in, I have 12 squared plus x squared equals 14 squared. Okay, plugging it into your calculator, or you could kind of do it yourself. I'm going to get 144 plus x squared, because I can't do anything with that, equals 14 squared, which is 196. Now I'm solving it as if it's a regular algebraic equation. I'm going to then subtract by 196. Or no, other way around. Subtract 144 because I'm trying to get my x by itself. And then I'm going to get x squared equals 52. How do I get rid of a squared? I'm going to square root it. I'm going to plug this into my calculator. It's going to give me a decimal. But my answer is not asking for a decimal, so I have to simplify my radical. So I'm going to take square root of 52, and I'm going to go ahead and factor it out. If you are not sure what number goes into 52, always know if it's an even number, 2 always works. So factoring it, I'm going to get the square root of 2 and the square root of 26. Can I factor this out some more?
Yes.
Yes, this is also another even number, so I can get the square root of 2 and the square root of 13. Can I factor these out more? No. Okay, if I'm looking at it and I have a pair of roots, I'm just going to pull the number out. Why am I going to do that? Because if I decide to solve this, I'm going to get square root 4, and that's a perfect root. I'm just going to get 2 left over. And then I have radical 13, and I have my answer. If you do not simplify on the quiz, I believe you're losing 3 points per question. So I know it's only 3 points, but that's 3 points you could have had if you simplified it. Yes. No, you're multiplying. So for example, let's just say I had square root, we did 25. The reason why it's 5 is because you have radical 5 and radical 5. I'm not going to add them. I'm just taking the number out.
So since it's 2 squared, 2 doesn't that make it 4?
2 times 2 is 4. And 2 plus 2 is still 4. But you're multiplying, not adding. Okay, just remember it's multiplication, not addition. Okay, let's look at the next one. Plug it in and solve it. So looking at this one, I'm going to have A, B, and this is my C. So now we're getting into larger numbers. You guys have a calculator. Please use it because you will get some large numbers on your quiz. Solving it, I'm going to get 20 squared plus x squared equals 29 squared. So a squared plus b squared equals c squared. Solving it, I'm going to get 400 plus x squared equals 29 squared, which is 841. Now I'm going to go ahead and subtract 400. X squared is going to equal 441. And then get rid of that squared. I'm going to take that square root. And if you're not sure if this is a perfect root, plug it in. Where's the square root button on my calculator? If you look at the calculator, it's not a physical button. It's on the calculator like body type. So you have to click that second button at the top left corner. Does everybody see the second button? It's in a light blue. Click that button, and then you're going to click the squared button. So the squared button we used before, once you click second and the squared button, your square root's going to pop up. So you just click that button first, and then you plug in 441. So you hit the second squared, and then you type in 441. Do not type in 441 before. You have to type it in after. So this one is a perfect root, and x is going to equal 21. Did everybody find the button?
Yeah.
Did everybody do the plugging in on the calculators? Guys, if you don't know how to use this day of the quiz, I cannot help you.
Can you restate?
Second, so don't push the numbers yet. Click second, and then you see the squared button that we pushed? Push that button, and then your square root's going to pop up. And then you type in the number.
Are those the only two things we need to know for the calculator?
Yeah, it's really just those for now. We're eventually going to use if you look, it says sine, cosine, and tangent. We'll eventually use those buttons. But for now, don't worry about it. We're just using squared, the radical, and your addition, subtraction, multiplication, and division. Those are the only buttons we're using right now. All right. 7 and 8. You will get a question like this also on your quiz that says, tell whether the triangle is a right triangle. So if you were able to do these two questions, you should be good. Telling whether something's a right triangle means it has to be equal. Your a squared plus your b squared and your c squared has to be equal. So when you're plugging this in, if you're unsure what your hypotenuse is, take those radicals and make them a decimal and see what it equals. If I plug in the square root of 57, that's going to give me 7.5. So I know that 7.5, or that square root of 57, is going to be my c. Everything else is either going to be a or b. So solving it, plugging what I have in, 7 squared plus 3 squared equals the square root of 57 squared. So 7 squared is going to be 49 plus 9 equals, what's the square root of something squared? You're just going to take the number out. So I really don't even have to plug it. Because that's the formula. A squared plus b squared equals c squared. That's why I'm squaring it. So it's just 57. So adding all these together, 49 plus 9. I have 58. Does 58 equal 57? No. So my answer is no. Okay, this is not a right triangle. Looking at number 8, plugging in 5 times. So I'm going to plug in 5 times. Then I'm going to put my square root 5 and click enter. That's 11.1. So it's my largest side. So again, I know that this is my C. I have my A and I have my B. And now I'm going to go ahead and solve it. Plug it in. 11 squared plus 2 squared equals everything in parentheses, 5 times the square root of 5 squared. So 11 squared is 121 plus 2 squared is 4 equals, distributing my 2, 5 squared is 25 times 5 because I'm taking it out of the root. So now I have 125 equals, multiplying 25 times 5 is also 125. So is this a right triangle? Are they equal? Yes, they are. So this is a right triangle.
Miss Chung?
Yes.
When would we use a foil?
If let's say they had 5 plus 6. When you have an addition or subtraction sign on the inside with your squared on the out. When you have an addition and subtraction sign separating your two terms. If it's just multiplication, you can distribute.
When will it be like that though?
I don't think you don't have any of that on your quiz right now.
Okay.
But you have to only when it's addition and subtraction, separating two terms, you have to foil it.
5 squared 5 was instead like 5 plus 6, then I would foil.
So always just remember, it would be 5, radical 5. This one, I'm just distributing my 2.
Okay.
This one, if you want to write it out twice, it should be a 6. This one you have to foil.
Okay, I get it now.
Because 5 radical 5 as a decimal would be like 11 point, I plugged it in. It would be 11.2, and it's the largest side. All right, verifying if the segment lengths form a triangle. Is the triangle acute, right, or obtuse? Don't really stress on these questions because this question in particular is not going to be on the quiz. But you will 100% see it on your test. So I'm not going to waste time on this because I want to be able to go over everything. But if you did it correctly, number 9 is a yes. This is a triangle because the 13 falls in between your 5 and your 12 if you add and subtract it. And this would have been a right triangle. And 11 is also yes. And this would have been an obtuse triangle. So most important thing on this page is going to be these questions. Definitely study these questions because you will see these questions on the quiz. All right, next. All right, you will see both of these questions, so it's definitely in your best interest to study all of these. I am going to go over them. Most important thing for this is their special right triangles. So you have to remember your 40, 60, 90 and your 45, oh my gosh, 40, 60, what am I saying? Your 30, 60, 90 triangles and your 45, 45, 90. So I'm going to draw them at the top right here because you have to know how to label them. That's my 45, 45, 90. And then I have my 30, 60, 90 triangles. So looking at this one, I have A radical 2. That one should be the easiest. 30, 60, 90. Let me just write this a little better. For your 30, 60, 90 triangle, there is a specific way on labeling them. Opposite of 30 has to be A. Opposite of your hypotenuse is 2A, and opposite of your 60 is A radical 3. If you're just putting these wherever you want to put them, it's going to be wrong. There is a specific way. The triangle could be flipped, the triangle could be upside down, and these have to be here in these specific positions. So let's go ahead and start solving these. The top ones were pretty easy, and it will be pretty easy on the quiz. So looking at this, first thing I always want you to do, just so it's practicing and it's in your head, is label what it is. This is a 45, 45, 90 triangle. So I have A on both my legs. And then I have A radical 2 on my hypotenuse. Looking at it, I promise you this is not a trick question. What is your A? Good, it's going to be 4. Look at it. If they're already giving me my radical 2, okay, you can kind of see that they're matching. My 4 is going to be my A. So for this one, you didn't really have to do any thinking. If you notice the positions of your 4 and your A, then you should have solved that X is going to equal 4. Looking at number 2, again, label everything. You have your sides. And then you have your hypotenuse, A radical 2. Are they telling me what A is? Okay, 3. Remember, we are not solving for A. We are solving for X. So if A equals 3 and X equals A radical 2, all you have to do is plug in the 3. So X is going to equal 3 radical 2 when you're done. And number 3, again, label A, and your hypotenuse is A radical 2. Do I know what my A is? Good. A is going to be 5. And again, if X equals A radical 2 and A is 5, all you have to do is plug it in. And you're done with these. Questions on the first 3? Those are pretty easy. Again, most important thing for this is labeling, know where everything goes. So looking at number 4, we have to find X and Y. Again, label. Opposite of my 30 is A. Opposite of my right angle, my hypotenuse is 2A. And opposite of 60 is A radical 3. So looking at this, do I know what A equals? They're giving me my A, which is 1. All you have to do is plug it in. If Y equals 2A and A equals 1, plug it in. 2 times 1 equals 2, so y is 2. And x, if x equals a radical 3 and a is 1, it's just going to equal radical 3. So y equals 2, x equals radical 3. Questions? I would just put radical 3. It's not wrong, but by now you should know that if it's just 1, it's just multiply itself. Technically, if you write 1 there, it's not simplified as simple as it can be. All right, number 5. Again, always label. Opposite of 30 is A, so now the positions are changing, but you have to remember what's opposite. Your hypotenuse is 2A, and opposite of 60 is A radical 3. Do I know what A equals? Okay, they're not giving me A equals something, so I need to look at what I have, and I need to evaluate what they're giving me. If they're already giving me radical 3 and I have a 4 left over, like before, A is going to equal 4. So I'm going to go ahead and write it. A equals 4, and all you have to do is plug it in. So I should know right off the bat what x equals. X equals 4, because x is A and A is 4, so they're the same thing. And now looking at my y, I have 2A, and we said A is 4, so 2 times 4, it's going to give me 8. So y equals 8. And I'm done with this question. All right, and looking at number 6, again, label, label, label. Here's A, 2A, A radical 3. Do I know what A equals? No. Now I have to solve for A. So looking at this question, if 10 equals 2A, how would I solve for A? What do I have to do? Good, I need to get that A by itself. So in order for me to get rid of my 2, I have to divide. A is going to equal what? 5. All I have to do now is plug it in. If A equals 5 and y equals A, y is just going to be 5. And x is going to equal 5 radical 3. Just plug it in. All right, questions on these 6? It's my calculator. All right, this page. Most important thing on this page are these 6 questions. Thank you. All right, 3, 4, and 5, I want to say, if you know how to do those, I probably thought that that's the most challenging question on the quiz, but it's almost the exact same questions, just change the number. So please make sure you understand how to solve these. Number 1 will definitely help you with 3, 4, and 5. So I'm going to go ahead and go over number 1. Looking at number 1, they want us to identify similar triangles. How many triangles do I have here? 3. I have the original triangle. I have my medium triangle. And then I have my smallest triangle. So if you're looking at them and you're unsure how to write your similarity statement, draw them out. Okay, when I say draw them out, please draw them out because it's definitely going to help. So here is your original triangle. Here's the right angle. I know the right angle for my original triangle is K. And then I have LJ. That's my original triangle.
Why'd you write it oppositely?
That's just how I normally draw the triangles that way. But if you're looking at it, if you flip like your page over, the hypotenuse is JL for the large triangle. So if you just kind of like turn your iPads around, you could kind of see where it is. Now looking at your blue triangle, it's your medium triangle. Your right angle is your M. Your hypotenuse is your KJ. And your K is the shortest side, so it's going to look like that. So that one, it's just, I flipped it. I'm just trying to write all my triangles in the same direction. And then now you have the smallest triangle. I'm drawing my right angle on the smallest triangle in the diagram, so I know where it is, and now I'm going to label it. It's M, then I have L and K. So now I can write what triangles are similar. So, similarity statement. Triangle. I'll go from smallest to largest. KLM is similar to triangle JKM, which is similar to triangle JLK. Okay, if they're similar, I can set up my ratios, okay? I could set up my ratios and I could solve for a variable. Writing a similarity statement, no, but it'll definitely help for 3, 4, and 5. So, for 3, 4, and 5, last chapter, we did solving for a variable using similar triangles. If all of these triangles are similar, I can solve for my variable x. So looking at this, I'll do it both ways. There's one way that's going to take a while, and there's the shorter way. I'll do the shorter way first, and then you could see the other way. Looking at number 3.
Is this the one you just guys did?
Yeah. Looking at number 3, I have my smaller triangle. What color did I do the small triangle in? I'll do it in purple. I have my medium triangle. And then my large triangle is the entire thing. And this was a 6 right here. I just kind of blocked it out. All right, when I'm looking at this, I can set this up as proportions. Okay, I could set it up as 6 over x. Okay, here's my right angle. So I have my hypotenuse and my base is proportional to, I have my large triangle. My hypotenuse, which is 10, over what's the same side as my 6? So looking at it, my hypotenuse and the 10 are both the hypotenuses of the triangle. If I were to write this as a similarity statement, your 6 is your hypotenuse of the purple triangle, and your 10 is also the hypotenuse of the yellow triangle. So I need to find the bottom, the base of it. It wouldn't be x, it would be 8. So now I can cross multiply. I'm going to go ahead and cross multiply for this. 6 times 8, what would you get? I'm not going to put an equal sign here. 6 times 8 would get you 48. So I have 48 equals 10x. How would I solve for this? Divide both sides by 10. X is going to equal 4.8. This is a little trickier because you have to be able to match with what goes with what. But once you see the pattern for this, it's going to be easier to solve. So, x equals 4.8. However, there's another way to solve these. So let me erase these so you can see it. I'm going to first solve. So I'm going to use the rules for similar triangles. I'm going to go ahead and I'm going to solve for, I'm going to call this y and I'm going to call this side z. I'm going to solve for my segments. Solving for my segments, I'm going to do the work on this side. We had formulas, we had rules, we had theorems that help us solve for segments. There was an altitude one where we had segment 1 over our altitude equals our altitude over segment 2. Okay, that's one rule that we had to remember. And then we had c over y equals y over b, and c over x equals x over a. Okay, what does that mean? Your C is always your hypotenuse of the original triangle. So they are not giving me my segments. I need to solve for my segments. So please pay attention. This is a little bit of a longer way, but it's very straightforward and you have a calculator. Mia?
Before you start that, for the first way you showed us, how did you pick the numbers 6, 8, and 10 and like put them there?
So if I were to draw these triangles out, so we did the small one in purple. I have this small triangle, and here's my right angle. I have W, Z, Y, and then my sides are 6 and X. Okay, do you see where I'm getting those numbers from?
Yeah.
Okay, and then my larger triangle I did in yellow. Here's my right angle, which was Y, and then I have Z and X.
But why did you put them specifically there? Like,
Because I have a 10 here and an 8 here. So they are similar triangles. So we did this last chapter. My 6 is going to go over my X, and my 10 is going to go over my 8 because those are the corresponding sides.
Okay, I understand that.
Yeah, so it's easy when you draw them out. So I suggest you, if you're going to use that method, draw it out so you can see where the numbers go. But if you were to mess up and put a number in the wrong position, then your whole question will be wrong. So for that one, you really have to understand where everything's going. So let me just erase that so we don't get too confused. And then I'm going to go ahead and solve for my segments. So plugging in, I'm going to go ahead and I'm solving for my segments. When you're solving for your segments, I'll go ahead and again just label these triangles. Here's my purple one. And this one I'm going to do in blue. I'm going to solve for segment Y first. When you are solving for your segments, you have to take your hypotenuse of the original triangle over your leg. Your leg for this one is 6 equals your leg over Y. So same thing as we've been doing, cross multiply and then divide. I have 36 equals 10Y. Divide by 10. My y is going to equal 3.6. For this question, you will have to round on your quiz. So I have 3.6 right here. And then you really don't have to solve for z. You could just subtract 3.6 from 10 if you want to take it the easier way. So, but I'm going to go ahead and solve it and show you that it still works. So solving for my blue side, I'm going to take my hypotenuse again. And now I have 8 equals 8 over z. Cross multiply. 64 equals 10y. Divide both sides by 10. And this should actually be a z, not a y. Z is going to equal 6.4. So if I added 6.4 and 3.6, it's still going to give me 10. I'm just solving it. Now that I have my segments, I can now solve for my altitude. So solving for my altitude, I'm going to use the formula that we used up here. Segment 1, 3.6, over my altitude, I don't know, equals my altitude over 6.4. I'm going to get x squared equals multiply 3.6 times 6.4. Again, you have your calculator. You're going to get 23.4. Getting rid of your squared, it's actually 23.04. Yeah, you're going to round to the nearest 10. So you could just use square root of 23 is fine. So x, if you solve this correctly, let me plug it in, second squared, 23. You're still going to get 4.8 when you round to the nearest 10th. It's going to be 4.79, but I'm looking at my 9. I'm going to round up. So 4.8 is still your answer. So whichever way you want to use, it's up to you. So looking at number 4, I'm going to solve it the easy way, the shorter way. I'm going to go ahead and draw out the triangles. So I'm going to do number 4 right here. I'm going to go ahead and draw out my triangles. I have the blue one, the purple one, and then I'll do the red one as my original. So my blue triangle, again, it definitely helps to draw it out. You're going to have 20 for your hypotenuse and x for your side. My purple triangle. Here's my right angle. X for my side, 21 for my hypotenuse. I can't use those because I have 2 x's. I need to solve for x. So I'm going to go ahead and use my larger triangle. Here's the right angle. My hypotenuse is 21. My side is, or not 21, 29. My side, my longer side is 21. And then I have a 20 over here.
This is so much easier with like the shorter way.
But you have to make sure you're setting up everything correctly. So setting it up, I'm going to put it right here at the bottom. I'm going to have x over what? X over 20 equals 21 over 29. Cross multiply. You're going to get 420 equals 29x. Divide by 29. And you're going to get x equals 14.5, and that's rounded, and that would be your answer. So I highly suggest draw out the triangles, but you could always use the other method, because if you mess up with one number, let's say you switched your 20 and your 21, your answer would be wrong. And when I say that, I mean right here. It's memorization, that's the key.
Is the next one 7.1?
The next one is 7.1. Yes. Go quickly, please. Yes, number 5 is x equals 7.1. Do we need to show you guys that one? I want to have time to do geometric mean. So go ahead and try number 5.
No.
It's right here.
It would be 20. Over x equals.
All right, I'm going to go ahead and do the geometric mean question. Try number 5 by yourself, whichever method you want, and then if you have questions, just ask. All right, geometric mean is pretty easy. You will have a question that says, find the geometric mean of the two numbers. We should know geometric mean by the notes. These are not difficult. All you're doing, so here's number 6, for geometric mean is you're setting it up as x equals, or your geometric mean equals, radical 3 times the square root of 12. If you want, instead of separating like this, sometimes they're already perfect roots if you multiply them. So if I multiply 12 times 3, what would I get? Is 36 a perfect root? Yes. So I didn't even have to simplify these out. X equals 6. This is for number 6. Yes. Number 7, I have square root of 4 and square root of 14. Can I simplify any of these?
Yeah.
Which one?
4.
All right, 4 is a perfect root, and I'm going to get 2 as a whole. Can I simplify 14?
Yes. 2 and 7.
Square root of 7, square root of 2. I'm not taking them out of the root because I did not simplify it to a perfect root yet. Can I simplify my 7 and my 2?
No.
No. So if you were to think about it, your answer would be 2 radical 7 times radical 2, which you can combine these. It'll just be 2 times the square root of 14. And that's your answer.
If you were finding the square root of 14, what would it be? Like just Just the square root.
The square root of 14 is the square root of 14. You can't simplify it anymore. If I left my answer as this is not in simplest form.
So you can't?
Because you can evaluate square root of 7 times the square root of 2.
Mrs. Chung,
Yes.
isn't the square root of 14 6?
6 times 6 is not 14.
Oh wait,
6 times 6
never mind.
is-
It's wait.
It would be a decimal. If you were to get the square root of 14, it would be a decimal. But for these, your answer should be in simplest radical form.
They can confuse it with their numbers.
It's okay. All right, so looking at number 8. Yes.
What was the answer to number 4?
Number 4 was 14.5.
Okay.
All right, looking at number 8. You have square root of 10 times the square root of 24. Can I simplify any of these?
Yeah.
Yeah, what about 10? 5 and 2. What about 24?
12 and 2.
What was it?
12 and 2.
12 and 2. Can I simplify any more? I could do 12.
6 and 2.
6 and 2. Can I simplify anything else?
3 and 2.
3 and 2. They're still in radical form. I would find my pairs. Do I have any pairs here?
Yes.
So look at what's on the outside. I have 5, 2. All of these are on my outside. I'm going to find my pairs, because then if you multiply the same number times the same number, that's going to give you a perfect root. So looking at it, I have radical 2 and radical 2. That's one pair. Then I have radical 2 and radical 2. That's two pairs. So I'm going to have 2 times 2, the square root of 3 times the square root of 5. I can evaluate this. 2 times 2 is going to give me 4. The square root of 3 times the square root of 5 is going to give me the square root of 15. I cannot simplify this anymore, and this would be my answer. Any questions on these? For those questions on your quiz, it has to be in simple radical form or you're going to get points off. So please make sure you know how to simplify radicals. All right, so there are a total of 6 things that I circled for you that you have to memorize, or not memorize, understand, because you're going to get those 6 questions on your quiz. And then this last page is all the rules that you have to memorize. So most important is going to be 30, 60, 90, and 45, 45, 90. Your Pythagorean theorem, how to find geometric mean, and similar triangles if you're going to use the longer method to solve. All right, Quiz Monday, please study.
We got to do the